So, welcome Elena Bensonoff to the Awakening series. Thank you so much for your time today. So excited to have you on the show. I am a very big fan, and I have been ever since I met you in Tampa. This series is really one close to my heart. We actually bring brilliant minds together like yourself to discuss self-changing discovery and the awakening within. So, a little bit about Elena. Elena Bensonoff is a pioneer in the field of functional, regenerative, and energy medicine who has been sharing her gift for over 20 years. She's founded Holistic and helps people all over the world to find balance and vitality with her services and products. Elena is a clinical pharmacist, acclaimed perfumer with an award-winning natural skincare. And Elena's mantra, which I love, is everything is connected. Elena is also the author of Holistic Wisdom, Awaken Your Inner Healer. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I just wanted to talk about you and your healing and what you're doing for the world and what we can do for ourselves. So if you can start off with telling us a little bit about your journey.
Yes, thank you so much for today and for taking the time to do this interview. So the journey began, I think the journey for all of us begins from the moment we're born onto this planet. And the journey is really about discovering life and what we're here to do. I think since I was a little girl, I've always wanted to, or I thought about healing those that I love and making sure that they're all healthy. So that's why I decided to follow the path of a pharmacist, because I've always been mesmerized as a child walking by old apothecaries and seeing, in Russia, and seeing what I thought was like magic potions that were made behind the glass windows. I think I was 4 years old. Anyway, that inspired me to follow that path, which I thought was my path. Graduated in when did I graduate? In 98, moved to Florida, started working as a pharmacist, and quickly realized, actually I worked for quite some time as a pharmacist, that is really not the path I wanted to take, because I saw how over-medicated people are. And the reality of what's happening in our healthcare system is frightening, because people are seeking for the magic pill. And the answers that most people are seeking for their symptoms they're thinking are in the pill form. And that is the magic. But in reality, that is not the truth. And of course, we need our medical system for acute conditions like emergency rooms. If you have, heart disease and you need an open heart surgery, there's so many things that medicine is critical in. But as far as prevention and chronic conditions, this is something that is not being addressed, I think, properly at this time. So I began to pursue different healing modalities. In 2007, I went to study functional medicine, and in one of the first modules, a cardiologist had us get up and do something called Gong. And that was the first time I recognized that there is an energy flow. And it made me recognize that there's something much greater to us than what we perceive or what we learn in school, that we're just these physical bodies. And I recognized over the years that we're actually a manifestation of something much greater, this divine field or the morphogenetic field, and that our thoughts, emotions, events, and situations all contribute to the reality that we create and we're in at the moment. My mission became educating people that the true healing has to take place inside. There's no one outside of ourselves that's going to heal us. And I love the title of your show. It's Awakening, right? You're calling it that. Okay, I love it. Because it is truly about awakening from within. And that's the only place the healing can begin to take place. Getting to know ourselves is really the journey of life. And once you get to know yourself, you also have to, of course, let go of a lot of belief systems that you've inherited, or we all inherit from our childhood, right? Based on who we interact with, our school, our friends, our family members, and recognize that, you're not here to hold the whole world on your shoulders. And it's really about you liking yourself. And the happiness is an inward journey.
That inward journey is a beautiful journey, and we definitely all should go through it. The World Health Organization stated that in 2020 worldwide, depression and anxiety would be the #1 disability, and we're now in 2020, literally just started 2020, and this has to change. So how can you help us with helping ourselves?
Step #1, I would say, is becoming aware of your patterns, because first you have to understand what is contributing to your state of anxiety, which is stress, which stems from fear. Mm-hmm. So I would say that the #1 step is recognizing, where do you give your power away to? Perhaps it's people in your life, right? Perhaps it's situations, your work, your relationships, right? Whatever it is, you have to become aware of it. So I would say, have a journal and begin to take notes. And then step #2 is become responsible for what you become aware of.
And that's just like responsible for eating as well, like what we're putting into our system.
So there's so many foods that contribute to numbing us, right? So of course, #1 thing that I always have all of my clients get off of is, for those that drink, alcohol. Alcohol is an absolutely numbing agent. So this is the most important. Sugar. And sugar comes in many different forms, and that includes artificial sweeteners as well. And sugar hides in many products. So I would say also to stay away from prepared meals. A lot of times people, I've had over the years, people change their diets, and I would say, how often do you eat? Do you make your own meals? Most people actually don't make their meals.
Right.
That is a major disconnect as well, because making your own meal is a way to connect to yourself as well. So dairy is another agent or another I would say substance, ingredient, food that needs to be avoided. It actually triggers the same receptor in the brain as morphine. So it's one of the highly addictive substances, and most people don't realize it. People are addicted to cheese, to milk products. And that was one of the things for me that I had to stop. That was big. Let's see, dairy, breaded things, right? Gluten. Even though a lot of people don't realize, gluten sensitivity is not something that most people feel instant impact from. Like, most things we're talking about are delayed response, right? But it will give you bloating. It will give you perhaps congestion, just like dairy, right? Or stomach cramps. So you want to make sure that there's certain foods you want to avoid. And then, of course, it's all individually based. Some people are sensitive to nightshades. So this is important to avoid as well. For a lot of people, caffeine is an issue. What happens with caffeine, it actually increases your cortisol level, and then you crash faster. So what you're doing is you're actually depleting your adrenal glands, which are there to support you in the time of stress. You're stressing them out. Okay, and we don't have limitless supply of cortisol. So that's one thing to remember. The other thing is most caffeinated, I would say, coffee beverages have high content of mold, which also contributes to major issues in your GI tract as well.
Wow, yeah, absolutely. That definitely all of that can have a factor in being more of yourself, and pulling all of that out. What do you see once people start detoxing and disconnecting from those type of foods? What do you see?
Initially people will have resistance. That's normal. Resistance, excuses, because it's hard. I mean, it's addiction, right? Food is addiction. It's one of those things that is just really tied deeply to our emotional state of well-being, or we think it is. So initially I would say resistance is step #1. But if you're being honest with yourself, then, it gives you insight into yourself, right? So you have to begin to ask yourself deeper questions of why, right? And then the step #2, of course, some people feel like if you're addicted to sugar and dairy, for example, you'll crave these things the first week that you're off. But once you make it through the first week, it's a lot easier. But then you begin to feel great because you have mind clarity. You don't crash as much, so your adrenals are stronger. Your gut begins to heal. So there's so many layers to feeling better, because it's a way that you can tap into your deeper self.
I love that. So we do now live in a digitally obsessed world, which allows us to escape society in a sense, and be connected, but maybe possibly on a deeper level be less connected. And I know you teach about connection, that we're all connected. How do we get out of our own way of the everyday addiction to our phone?
So I would say perhaps our the way we consumed information years ago has drastically changed as well. If before we would open magazines or newspapers to read, right, or books, now everything is on our phone. You can have your Kindle on the phone, everything is on there. So becoming aware of how does being on your phone impact your mindset, impact your level of happiness. So if those things impact your level, I would say, of overall well-being. Do you feel drained?
Good
right?
point.
Do you feel sad, depressed, angry? So if any of those things are a yes, then perhaps it's a way of, first of all, acknowledging and being aware, being honest, and then trying to limit it. So, I mean, I would say it's impossible to avoid it, but limiting it is the key.
And going back to journaling, we can daily journal what our feelings are at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, and then at the end of the day after consuming so much media from our phone. How do we feel? Like you said, do we feel drained? I mean, at times we do. It's a lot. It's a lot of information all at once. How have you helped yourself and how have you helped your own family with your spiritual healing journey?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say it's a body, mind, soul healing. So it's never just one aspect. And this is something I want to say, actually, to me, the practitioners of the future are the ones that do understand your physical body, the ones that understand how the mind and emotions work, and of course understand the link to everything else, which is your spirit, your soul, and the connection to the universe. So for me, it started off, of course, with physical things. I had a severe asthma. I was diagnosed with, severe asthma. My lungs were functioning at less than 25%. I was told I will have to be on 6 meds for the rest of my life. And so it began for me as a journey of changing my diet, changing my environment. And then as you start to feel better, you begin to implement those changes in your life. So for my children, actually, my first son had severe eczema, allergies. So he was also my teacher in recognizing our kids are, I think, our greatest teachers. I want to be a better mom, better human, and also make sure that my children understand the impact of what they eat and how they think, how they behave, how it's all connected. So I would say changing diet was a big step. And then also recognizing that my responses or reactions had to change as well, right? Because we're triggered a lot as parents, as moms.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say that also viewing my kids as my friends.
Aww.
And allowing them, their voices to be heard, but at the same time teaching them the things that I've learned about health, wellness, well-being. And then, of course, over the years, we've done a lot of practices together, breathing, meditating, having conscious.
That's amazing. Like, how wonderful is that? That is almost like a dream come true. I'm sure your kids are just the happiest with you to give that back to them, because then future generations will have that as well. So it's not just them you're giving this information to, it's your great-great-grandchildren.
Yes.
So that's wonderful.
And I would say when you impact your children in this way, and I would say my kids are very conscious humans as well. They actually, the ripple effects go beyond the family because they're this way with their friends. And this is beautiful to see. You know, if my son tells me, you know, he's at the university and his friends come to him for deep conversations because he is a positive human being and they want to have his input. So this makes me happy to know that our world has beautiful humans, and that begins in our homes.
It is so true. That's wonderful. Well said. What is your favorite part about your practice?
Gosh, there's so many things. I would say right now, working with people and making a difference in their life is my favorite part.
I love that. I love that. Wonderful. So can you tell us a little bit about your book? It's new. It just came out in 2019, right? So I have it. If you can just give us some insight about it.
Yes. So the reason I wrote my book is because I felt it was time to give people the information needed for each person to have the power to heal themselves. And the book is broken down into 3 parts: body, mind, and soul. Of course, the body is the place where it has to begin. A lot of times people seek spiritual healing by avoiding their physical body. But really, physical bodies are anchor in this 3-dimensional reality, so on this planet. So therefore, we have to take care of our body first, because everything is connected. So I guide people through very specific physical things that are common, I would say, across the population, across the globe. I would say most people have these issues, such as leaky gut, adrenal fatigue. So we dive into those aspects, and then, of course, the ways that they can figure out where the imbalance is and how to heal it themselves. That's important. Part number 2 is emotions and our thoughts and how they impact, of course, everything else. So when we have chaos in our entire being, it creates chaos in our physical body, and then we're so disconnected from our soul aspects. It's the last thing I would say we can connect to. So it's also, I'm teaching in the book how to test what kind of emotional blocks you have and how to balance those out. I think it's important. Also teaching about how to clear toxic relationships, how to cut cords with people that are absolutely depleting everything in our system. So again, it's becoming aware, learning how to navigate through difficult moments in our life, or what we perceive as difficult, which I don't look at it as difficulty, but for most people it seems like chaos is happening, and they don't know what to do. Most people freeze or become angry, right? Rebel. And then the third part is connecting to the soul aspects, and that's where the color lights come in. So I teach people how different color lights are connected to different organ systems. Of course, I talk about breathing exercises, meditation, sacred geometry, and so those are all
beautiful. So how many, in the class, I'm not giving too much away, but how many chakras are there? I didn't know there were so many.
Well, in my book, I only cover 7.
Okay.
But
the course, I think there's like 12.
Right. In the course, I talk about 12. And there's 2 different courses I have. So you're speaking about Ignite Your Codes of Consciousness. And this is the newest edition course that is actually going to be, it's part of my work at the moment.
It's amazing.
It's exciting. It's amazing. The shifts that I'm seeing are really powerful. And so, yes, there's 12 chakras. That's what you're referring to. But they're not just linked to our physical existence. It's really connecting us to the galaxies and beyond.
It's so beautiful. That's so exciting. I loved it. I learned something. I was like, wow, this is something I had no clue about. So thank you for that insight. Wonderful. What would you tell your younger self as far as advice? This is before spiritual healing, possibly when you were 4, looking at the beautiful potions in Russia.
I would say to this day, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is I always believe in magic, and that magic is love. Wow. So to always follow my heart and believe in love, and it will guide you in the right places, the places you're meant to go. So my advice will be what I've always believed.
Yeah.
And I would say stay true to yourself always.
That's so good. That's so true. Wonderful. Where can our audience find you? And so give us some insight. The class, I want everybody to take your class. It's so wonderful. It's so beautiful. And to detox, and to have somebody encourage you to detox, the step-by-step ways to detox, and me being able to write a little comment and you respond. It's so helpful, because some classes you don't get that interaction, and we're actually getting the interaction from the source, the person who wrote this course, which is so wonderful.
Thank you. So of course you can connect with me through my website, and that's where I have my courses. And
that's holistic.com?
Yes, holistic.com with W. And then this June, I'll be teaching at Omega Institute. I invite everyone to attend. This is a beautiful place. And there I'll be teaching people actually how to test not only themselves, but others to find out the imbalances as well. So we'll dive into healing modalities, into some diagnostic tools that will help each person just become a better version of themselves, heal themselves and others.
We all need that. We all need it. And to help other people is just a gift. Lastly, are you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? Is it still holistic.com or holistic at
Holistic Inc. So,
okay.
yeah, INC Incorporated. But through my website, people can find all the links. They're there. And of course, Pinterest as well.
Give us some insight about your beautiful perfume, because every time I've met with you, you smell delicious.
Thank you. Actually, I'm getting ready to launch 2 new perfumes. This is something that, so talk about magic potions, right? The magic potions. I wanted to, years ago, I taught about toxins in skincare products and perfumes. And one of the attendees, gosh, it was 2009, I think, who attended my workshop, asked me if there was a natural perfume that I could recommend. And that was actually one of the answers I didn't have. But I decided to pursue that for myself, and it became a creative aspect of my work, one of many creative things that I do. So currently there is 4 fragrances that I have, perfumes that are 100% natural, and I'm launching 2 new ones as well. So those are coming out, and I'm hoping by Valentine's Day.
Yay. Oh, wow, perfect. Perfect. Yes. Where can we find your perfume? Is it still on holistic.com?
No, it's on orally.com.
Oh, and how do you spell that?
Yeah, ORALI.com.
Perfect. And I'll have it down below for everybody so they can check out the natural perfume. That's amazing. Well, Elena, thank you so much for your time. You're such an amazing, beautiful soul. It's such a blessing to just have you on this show and just to be in your presence. So anyone who ever wants to meet Elena needs to go onto her website and check her out and contact her. She works wonders and magic and love and beauty. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.